Hello and welcome. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. We are now taking you to the latest developments in the Aryan Khan arrest case, which has now erupted into a full-blown political storm. Let's bring up a big story this evening. In court, the Narcotics Bureau is demanding an extension of Shahrukh Khan's son's custody, saying it needs more time to draw links between Mr. Khan and others who may have been both using and dealing. This comes as Maharashtra Minister. In fact, the Maharashtra government makes the charge that the NCB is linked to the BJP, releasing a controversial video in which you can see two people, one who is a private detective, the other who is a BJP worker, who are at the site of the cruise ship where this drugs raid takes place. This particular photograph is one in which you can see both of these men. One of these men, the private detective in question, later takes a selfie, believe it or not, with Aryan Khan. You would have seen that selfie going viral on the internet, and we'll bring you those pictures. In fact, I think this is one of the videos in which you can actually see the selfie shot where the private detective can be seen taking a shot with Mr. Aryan Khan. Now, the Maharashtra state government is claiming that this proves that there are BJP links. What were two private individuals doing at the site of this drugs raid? The NCB continues to argue that they have a rock-solid case and the Maharashtra politicians in question can take them to court. Taking a look at the questions that arise after the release of this video, let's bring up our panel on the program today. Let's introduce them one by one. We have Sandip, Ghose, columnist and commentator. We're joined also by Mr. Bibi Kumars, who's been with the NCB as its DG. Raja Sen, a journalist, columnist, and a film and TV critic, is with us. And we're also joined Sachin, who is a Congress leader in Maharashtra. The BJP had initially agreed to take part in this show, but now informs us that it has been instructed to not publicly comment on this particular case. So we saw them withdrawing from the show at the last moment. Sachin ji, I'll start with you. We have seen the video that Nawab Malik has released, and in fact, we'll be playing those pictures, suggesting that there were two private individuals who accompanied the NCB when it busted the cruise ship party where Aryan Khan was also present. The two individuals in question, there you can see them getting out of the car, do not deny that they were present and say that they were only trying to enable the NCB in doing its job. They ask what's wrong. So आप इसमें क्या बोलेंगे? What is exactly wrong that these two individuals were at the site of the drug raid?
See, yesterday, Barkha, NCP, the alliance partner, has put forth some kind of questions which are very important, and we were expecting that. We saw the NCB's press conference as well, and we were expecting that the head of that NCP, who was addressing the press, said that the action taken by NCB was done professionally and very transparently. And we're expecting that the questions will be answered transparently. Unfortunately, it was not. Apart from that, they have said that all the actions were taken following the rules and regulations laid down in the NDPS Act. But sorry to say that all these regulations, as far as the arrests is concerned, have been violated over there, and that is what we have cited today also in my press conference. If you see, there is a NCB handbook which clearly says that it points out major points. I think the former DG of NCB will also be telling much more about that. But it says that the responsibility of after making an arrest to take the custody and produce that particular accused to the magistrate within 24 hours, it lies with the officer who has arrested that particular person. And apart from that, the security and the well-being of that particular person is the responsibility of that particular officer. We are seeing that a selfie is being taken with a person who is not related to that raid, who is just a witness probably. It suggests that that particular rule has been flouted out here. Second thing, the page number 70 of the
Okay, sir, we've lost you there. We'll try and get a better line to you. We'll in fact reconnect with you. But let me just get Mr. Bibi Kumar's perspective as we take a look at what has happened here. Mr. Kumar, how typical would it be for two private individuals, one of whom is connected to a political party, to actually accompany the Narcotics Bureau on a cruise ship raid where a drugs bust is supposed to happen? We are not seeing either of these individuals being defensive about their role. They're quite open about the fact that they were, in fact, present with the NCB team. How typical, sir, would that be?
No, we would take the whole case in its proper perspective. If you had seen the videos right from the beginning, which has come through the electronic media, initially these people were offloaded from the ship. The 8 persons who were offloaded, then they are brought to the office. In the office, Mr. Gosavi escorts one of the accused. Then Mr. Bansali escorts another accused. Probably it is Aryan Khan or the merchant, one of them. And they take them inside the NCB's office in Bombay.
Yes, those pictures are in
Now,
fact playing out right
yeah,
now, the ones you're
yeah,
talking about.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely correct, absolutely correct.
Let's take
Normally,
another look at them. So these two individuals actually escort the accused.
correct,
Let's play them
yeah,
again as you talk about
yeah,
them. And neither
yeah,
of these individuals, it now turns out, are
correct,
NCB officials. They're private
yeah.
individuals. Go ahead, sir.
Correct, absolutely correct. Now, normally, this is not done. It is the NCB officers who have to escort them. They have enough manpower. They have the sepoys who, and also they have officers who are well armed and other things in case there's any trouble. Here, these are the youngsters who were, I think, very calm and cooperating in proceeding inside the office of the NCB. Now, these two individuals, according to the NCB's press conference, are witnesses because they read out the names of the witnesses. Both Mr. Gosavi's and Bansali's names were there. It is very uncommon that a private person physically holds one of the accused and drags him inside the office and other things. Normally, these are offences under which are cognizable and non-bailable. So, in such case,
Yeah.
private persons certainly can help the government officers, but that is done if you think the accused would run away or he would be violent. For example, in the case of Nigerians, they're sturdy and strong. So it's very difficult to handle them and other things. There, probably you can seek the help of the public, certainly. And that is not an offense under the law. But this is abnormal in a case where the youngsters are meekly following the directions of the NCB officers, that a private person should, and that too, a person like Mr. Gosavi, who is absolutely strong like a wrestler, physically dragging the
I want to
accused and
take a look
laughing.
at I want to take a look at these pictures again because not just does he escort Aryan Khan and another accused, he then goes on to take a selfie with the accused, actually trivializing the entire case because if this
Yeah,
is indeed an international conspiracy as
yeah,
is being
yeah,
argued by the NCB in
yeah.
court. What is this selfie all about? Doesn't this dent
Very
the image of
understood.
the NCB?
Yeah.
Mr. Kumar?
It's not allowed once an accused is in the custody of the department or the Narcotics Control Bureau. It's not, we take pictures because for purposes of record, we take their fingerprints, their photographs, both in the front and the profile and other things. But these are purely for purposes of record for future, in case they're involved and other things. But an accused is not permitted to be photographed by a separate individual as a selfie or even as a separate photograph and other things. That is not permitted. That was unusual and probably should not have been done. Another thing I would like to point out is Mr. Banusali claims that he was an informer. No informer can expose, neither the department will expose him nor he himself would like to be exposed. Because in drugs cases, the mafia are believe only in either lead or silver. That means either you take money and leave us or we'll shoot you. So in this case, I don't know why he claims that he is an informer and he exposes himself. And no, the informer is protected under the Indian Evidence Act. The information is not secret, but the
Yeah.
informer's identity is secret. He cannot expose himself, and he is claiming that he is the informer, which is very unusual. No
Yeah.
informer claims that he is an informer. In fact, we take a thumb impression when we record an information, and that's put in a seal cover. Only the information is kept
Yes.
separately on which it's acted.
Yes.
So these are all very
Yes.
unusual things. that which should not have happened.
All right.
But then,
I have more questions, but I think you've said that what's happened is very unusual, and the NCB has not disowned these two gentlemen. They have named them as witnesses. The two gentlemen have said we were, doing a public service. One of them, as I said, is a BJP worker. The other is a private detective. Sachin ji, you're back with us. Before I go to Raja and Sandip, is it my understanding that on the basis of these videos, your government is now, in a way, taking the side of Aryan Khan and claiming he's innocent? Have you made that leap, innocent of having,
You come again because I could not
accusations?
listen to you. Whatever question you asked me.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you making the case that Mr. Aryan Khan is innocent? Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think you can hear me, Sachin ji. There's something wrong with your line. Sandip, let me just go to you straight away. Why would, after the release of these videos, the NCB argue for extended custody? Do you not think that this trivializes the entire case?
See, there are two different things. As far as the extended custody, if it was in a normal course, they could have justification. Because sometimes, these are the tip of the iceberg when you're finding some small, somebody consuming or some small quantity on somebody's person, but that can lead you to much bigger things. So that's a separate issue. But the points which you raised and Mr. Kumar raised, those definitely, puts, as you said, whether you call it trivialization, or I would say it does put a question mark around this whole the process by which it was done. Giving people benefit of doubt, as you mentioned, and as Mr. Kumar was saying, that these people were either informers or they were aiding the raid. In case of drugs or this kind of mafia operation, nobody would like to expose themselves before the camera and all. So that sounds, even if you're foolhardy, in these sort of situation, you don't like to show off that I was the guy who caught this people and I was behind them.
Forget showing off. He's taking a photograph of himself with Aryan Khan.
That's a show off. No, he's trying to have a selfie maybe for posterity. But then if you don't last the posterity, then, the selfie is of little use. So those raise a definite question over there. But at the same time, I would not jump into talking about conspiracy. Whatever happens anytime, we immediately say that this is a conspiracy and this should not have been investigated, or this is being victimizing some people. All those are, I think, another part of the story. The first part I definitely buy, and definitely NCB needs to explain these things in a logical manner.
But isn't it linked, right? The point is, if you're going to hear the Narcotics Bureau argue in court that this is possibly an international conspiracy, that you can't trace the supplier till you investigate the consumer, and then you find two private individuals not just providing information. Informants can come from civil society, but escorting them, holding them, like I actually thought they were cops.
Yeah, Barkha, in that I will reserve the judgment. Salman Khan, Aryan Khan have got the best of somebody like Satish Manishande. You couldn't get a better criminal lawyer. I'm sure he's going to question these issues. We are speaking from a layman's perspective as viewers, literally. And these appear to us odd in terms of the behavior of these two gentlemen, certainly. And now, whether there is something bigger, I think that's the onus lies with NCB, because even before some of the cases where things have happened, it really has not led to any place. You can understand, finding this minuscule quantity of drugs, etc., can be, as I said, a lead. But if after those leads nothing comes out, and these people are put through the, that kind of trauma for such a long time, then that's, I think, really not carrying justice forward.
Okay, we have Sudhir Suryawanshi, senior journalist, with us as well, but I want to come to Raja San. Raja, what we're seeing here is now almost a caricature of itself, right? You're seeing not just these two private individuals escort Aryan Khan in, you're seeing some Hrithik Roshan versus Kangana Ranaut battle take place on the sides, you've seen Hrithik Roshan writing an open to Aryan Khan saying, own every experience of your life, and Miss Kangana Ranaut sort of responding back to it. You're seeing a film industry mostly silent and terrified, kind of going through a redux of the kind of media coverage that took place during the Sushant Singh tragedy. How do you see the undercurrents of what's going on in the film industry vis-a-vis the institutions of power?
I just want to say that at this point, all the conversations I've had with people within the industry is there is a very strong sense of fear. A lot of people want to come forth. A lot of people want to talk about Shahrukh Khan. A lot of people want to lend their support, are doing so, are reaching out to Mr. Khan privately, but do not want to do that online. There is a extreme sense of unease here. And when we see these kinds of images, I don't even want to get into the Hrithik Roshan, Kangana Ranaut kind of undercurrent on the side, but what's happening here is really, it is a point where it feels like I think the selfie is a tipping point, because it's very hard to justify, and I think it's almost basically a bit of a it's an insult to all rational, right thinking people that this is what we are doing. This is as blatant as it is. If you consider that there is a nexus between the government and these investigative agencies, you might very well be right. I mean, we have our fingers in all the pies. We are coming after all of your pies as well. It's just a very it's a murky situation, and there's no, I would like to see a more generous spin on it. I would like to see someone here maybe correct me and say, you know what, this is actually the way to look at it. This selfie is fine. This is there for this reason. This is why there are these people and informants necessary. It just really, I don't see a less sinister way to look at what's unfolding.
And of course, this Mr. Bhanushali is doing the BJP's top leadership no favors, because there's a whole bunch of photographs in which he's inserted himself into various selfies with the top leadership, from the Prime Minister to the Home Minister to the former Chief Minister. You're seeing them, and then he ends up being the guy who's part of this cruise ship. And actually, therefore, I don't know how this helps the image of the central government at all. But Raj, I just want to push you a little further on this unease, this fear that you talk about within the industry. What are they scared of? It's not as if Shahrukh Khan, for example, has been like Javed Akhtar or Nasiruddin Shah, a critic of the BJP. He's been pretty much silent, as is Amir Khan, as is Salman Khan. I mean, these are not examples of people who've been taking on the government. That's the first point. Secondly, there is one view that also looks at this as a sort of, poor little rich guy syndrome here, asking why we should feel sorry for Aryan Khan if indeed he was caught with drugs, notwithstanding the sort of ludicrous things that have happened with these two gentlemen on the side.
No, absolutely. I agree if there is any wrongdoing. And this is why I think everyone, most commentators, most people following the case and watching the news are looking for some sort of transparency. They want to know what he was caught with, what are these amounts required, what is the requisite thing that we should all also look for in terms of red flags, and what are the things that he has been held for. If there is indeed evidence of some great drug smuggling conspiracy, and that he holds some sort of key information about that, then there should be some allusion toward it, as opposed to right now where it looks like a bit of a witch hunt. I think that's the main thing. If there was certain amount of clarity as to what exactly he's been caught with and found guilty of, this it seems to be like a bailable offense. No one has been able to prove that otherwise, and yet he's being held. So all of these things begin to sound more frightening. When it comes to Shahrukh Khan and them being someone, he's like the other names you mentioned, he's been someone who's been quite silent through this whole thing. I think that's the silence that has been that can be said to have been imposed on a lot of people who might have been vocal otherwise. And I think at this point, it's not just about whether you're supporting Shahrukh, if that makes you anti-government. I think for them it's very much, if you're not with them, you're against them. So I don't think there's a middle ground. I don't think there's a possibility to be moderate and to say certain things and walk back on certain things. It doesn't matter if you're supporting Javed Akhtar or Shahrukh Khan. I mean, very much so. It feels like when Shahrukh used to make a big deal about being detained for customs in the US because his name was Khan, and it seems very much like, unfortunately, that's what is happening here too in terms of the film industry.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm sure Sandip will have things to say on that. But Sachin, I'm going to try this last time. I'm hoping you can hear me this time. I'm saying, is it appropriate for your government to get involved in this so directly? Because then it becomes politician versus politician over Shahrukh Khan. And I was asking you whether indeed by releasing these videos, you're making the case that Aryan Khan is innocent. Is that what you're saying, Sachinji?
No, we are not saying that. See, as far as Aryan Khan's case is concerned, I really believe that the course of law will follow, and his lawyers would prove what exactly they want to prove. But the thing is, you need to understand this is there is a larger point into this, and we have been witnessing as a MVA government since last 1.5 years. We have been seeing that there is a concerted effort from the central government to defame MVA government, and for that they are doing anything. We have seen the SSR case as well, in which also all the three national agencies came. They were used politically. They tried to malign the image of the Mumbai police as well. And apart from that, Bollywood is on their hit list, and that is for sure. And that we have seen in the SSR case as well. You need to understand that there is more to this drug angle. And we have seen this drug, and I have been consistently talking about the drug connection of Bharatiya Janata Party itself, which people are not giving a look at. In
What do you
Karnataka,
mean? What do you mean?
many BJP workers have been caught with I think 1,200 kilos of ganja and many other drugs. Even in Goa also we have found that.
But
Even in SSR case,
I'm sure that's a party agnostic, so I don't want to make this about a Congress versus BJP
no,
thing.
that is okay. But
I just want to ask you why you and Nawab Malik chose to get so directly involved in this, and who tipped you guys off on this video? I'd be quite intrigued to know who filmed this video of these two men, and who tipped you off that one was a BJP worker. And I know journalists don't reveal their sources, but I'm sure politicians can.
I don't think so. I should be doing that. But apart from that, I really believe that you should ask this question to Nawab Malik because he is the owner of all this talk. But apart from that, what we want to say, you need to understand. I was listening to Raja as well, and apart from I could not listen to our former DG of NCB. But the thing is, I have cited today that this is gross violation of rules and regulations mentioned in the NCB handbook as well as the NDPS Act. See, that is what I wanted to consistently and continuously talk about this, that the NCB rule book, that handbook, which is very much essential and which defines how exactly you have to make the arrest, how you have to take the custody of a accused, it itself specifies all the things, and they have floated all the things. That is the thing. So you cannot have any private person involved while taking the custody of a person. You need to understand that. That is a gross violation, and for which NDPS Act's 59 section gives the permission to book that particular officer as well. Because even if you want to hand over the custody to another officer, it has to be a permission from his upper officer, the superior officer. He has to give a written consent on that, and both officers should sign that. And how, we have been asking questions to NCB, and NCB is not giving answers. How they could give the custody to private individuals? One of them is a BJP office bearer.
Intriguingly, though, Mr. Manish Shinde, the lawyer for Aryan Khan, has not made this particular video the cornerstone of his defense in court, which puzzles me because, according to me, this is the strongest sort of thing we've seen so far.
Okay.
Mr. Kumar, sorry, Sachin, complete your point.
Apart from that, there are discrepancies in the answers given by NCB. You need to understand. I think our colleague also cited that. The Manish Bhanushali's statement, if you go to, he says that he has been informer in this particular case, and the official version of the NCB is that he is the independent witness. So there is a difference between these two. And today in the court also, the NCB said that Aryan Khan was not carrying any drug. But in yesterday's PC, they were saying that all the people were carrying drugs. So why this particular discrepancy from a national investigation agency? We don't expect that. And hence we feel that there is much more into this. It is fishy. And they want to really show this entire case under the carpet because there is gross violation of rules and regulations. And why it has happened then we come to that particular question that we related to the Mudra drug case. Mudra drug seized. Definitely, they want to divert the attention from that particular
Okay,
such a big.
yeah, you're talking about the thousands of kilograms of drugs that were seized at the Mudra port and barely made the kind of headlines that Aryan Khan's arrest has. I want to just quickly get Mr. Kumar to briefly respond on whether rules have been broken, whether this undoes the NCB case, and then I'll come to Sandip. Mr. Bibi Kumar?
Yeah. I heard with great attention the comments of the other panelists. Here, I would like to point out to certain things which ought to have been done by the NCB, probably which was not done in this case. First of all, when these boys were offloaded from the ship, before offloading them, they should have checked and searched the cabins in which they were staying. I think apparently that has not been done. They should have also checked the cabin of the event manager or his representative who must have been on board, because the claim is that a rave party was going on or about to go on, and certain amounts of drugs were found either in the soles of the boys or probably in their baggage or something like that. And subsequent, a running Panchanama ought to have been done, because probably the NCB at that point of time thought it's not safe to conduct a Panchanama on board the ship. They should have conducted, I'm sure they must have conducted a running Panchanama, and the actual seizure can be effected at the NCB office. To that extent, I'm sure they would have done that, but I'm not sure because that has not come out either in the arrest memo or in the proceedings before the court. The next thing is they ought to have also searched, should not have allowed the ship to proceed further, because they should have completed that part of the operation. They should have taken the sense of the rummaging division of the customs, because Mr. Wankade, if I'm not mistaken, is a former customs officer. He knows that the custom house has a separate rummaging division in Bombay, and they're experts in rummaging a ship or finding out where the drugs must have been concealed.
And sir, those are the procedural violations. But I think what
Yes.
Mr. Sachin Sawant of the Congress is saying is that in the use of these two private individuals, in the manner in which they were used, the rules have been violated. Have they been?
No, that I've already answered in the beginning itself. It's a cognizable, non-bailable offense, and if a private individual help is sought and given, it's not an offense. Legally, not an offense. But the way it has been done is
Yes.
probably morally and procedurally may not be correct. That is one. If there is a violent person, certainly you can take that sense of the public who are nearby,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
certainly you can take them. Otherwise, that by itself is not
Okay.
going to be weaken the
I
case
think-
against Ms. Aryan.
Maybe that's why Mr. Manish Shinde, the lawyer, is
Yeah.
not raising it in court, because you're saying that while it raises questions marks in the public court of opinion, it doesn't change the legality of it. That's useful to know. Sandeep, I want to, I make no judgment of the photographs that we're going to play, because God knows any public person can have anyone walking up and saying, let's have a photograph together. But how does this help the BJP to see this Mr. Bhanushali, who says he's a BJP worker, in a series of photographs with top BJP leaders, then landing up at a cruise ship where he claims to be an informant who busted this party? I mean, this is why they say truth is so much more interesting than fiction. You cannot make these things up. How is this helping the BJP's, image management at this point, Sandeep?
So you call me a BJP supporter. Now you're making me a BJP spokesperson. As a BJP well-wisher, I think he's not doing them any service. And I think this is the biggest problem BJP has got. That there's so many people want to show off and their connection. I think that really kind of does them in. And that's a big problem Mr. Modi, Mr. Shah and others have with these BJP people. Now, my comment will be on 2 points. One is this Mundra, I think, is a false equivalence. Okay, the fact that the raid was conducted over there itself shows the raid was not conducted by any private individuals in that situation. The raid was conducted by the authorities. And Mundra port, it is operated by XYZ private company, doesn't mean that it is under their control. Like we were joking that it sounds like tomorrow if something is found in Navasheva, you say the Nehru Gandhi family is responsible for it because it's called the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust. So it's not a connection. The fact that it was done, otherwise, that if somebody wanted to let people go, they would not have even seized 3,000 kilos of heroin. So that's a separate point. My bigger worry is, Barkha, we've discussed in this show earlier, in certain states, what I'm finding is simple law and order issues are becoming now a tussle between the center and the state. And like, this is my turf, this is your turf. So, on one hand, you'll find in Maharashtra, there is an accusation of the DGP disappearing or another minister not being found, and they're saying the state is protecting them. And when these actions happen, they say this is a retaliation. And I'm not talking just of Maharashtra. In certain places, I think this is a very dangerous trend.
But how do you avoid those parallels? Because I can't help commenting on the fact that Aryan Khan is in custody for drugs that he may or may not have consumed. The allegation is that he consumed them, whereas Mr. Ashish Mishra, implicated or accused in an FIR in the death murder of 4 farmers, is not even questioned.
Barkha, you are not comparing apples and orange, apple to apple here, because there are two separate points. Like in the case of Ashish Mishra, I'm not defending anybody's case. It's a question of establishing the guilt, the criminal act of that gentleman. In case of narcotics, etc., as Mr. Kumar himself will tell you, sometimes these are just the starting point, because even say you or me could have purchased something contraband unknowingly in very minuscule quantity, or in somebody may have even planted it in your or my bag. But that's just the starting point, because from there it goes back to who are the people who are. So it can be a long trail. As opposed to the Ashish Mishra case, as you're saying, that is individual. Okay, how you're pinpointing, how you're kind of incriminating him. It does not end there. So I would still buy your Mundra comparison, but not this comparison. Okay.
Hang on. I want to go back to Raja, but Sudhir ji, I'm hoping your line is working at this moment. What do you see happening, as we go forward? What are the things that have still not come into public domain? I follow your Twitter timeline with a lot of interest. Even with Sushant Singh Rajput, you had all of these big names questioned. I remember Deepika Padukone, Sara Ali Khan appearing before the NCB. Those cases amounted, at least right now, to nothing. We remember those images, and I think we have them somewhere. Sudhir ji. Sudhir. Can you hear me? We're really having bad luck, I think, with our connections.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So sorry for connecting the late. So I just want to say, as you mentioned, Sushant Singh Rajput case, and other cases related to Bollywood. What has happened to all these cases? Nothing. If you remember, in the few years back in Lonavala, there was the first rave party was busted. By that time, Vishwas Nangre Patil, he was, Pune rural commissioner, police commissioner. What happened with that rave party? Nothing happens. There are a lot of lapses remain in the charge sheet or the procedural, as Sanjay Sawant has, Sachin Sawant has pointed out, that procedural things have not been followed. Nothing happened after that. So the main point here is that the tug of war between the central government and the state government. Here, nothing is going to happen, but we want to do everything. Like that, they are damaging each other. Like that, now the NCB, Narcotics Control Bureau image has been completely, tarnished. Now, nobody will trust whether narcotic, if they seize, something from somebody, nobody will believe or trust immediately, because people will start suspecting that it must be some, handiwork, or they may be working on the base of somebody's. So the Narcotics Bureau has been, exposed in a badly in this entire case.
We know quite a lot about Mr. Bhanushali and his many photographs with BJP leaders. What do we know about this private detective? Now, let's come out of these. Let's go to the other guy who took the selfie with Aryan Khan. What do we know, Sudhir? I know you've been tracking this story closely. What do we know about this guy who took the selfie with Aryan Khan?
See, that private detective guy is a SK Ghose. You might have seen his photograph with the guns and, like a Bollywood stylist, campaign or something like that, like a Hollywood image.
We are a ready-made Netflix show at all times. We are. This country is a live stream Netflix series at all times. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
See. The guy, the Mr. Gosavi, his past is also not good. There are cases registered against him in Pune for duping the people from return of the jobs or some other thing. There are cases registered officially also. And the guy allegedly said to be very close to the zonal director of the NCP, Mr. Samir Wankhede, and he has got photographs with Samir Wankhede also. But that photograph has been removed after the NCP exposes the NCB. So that guy is close, and sometimes the police cannot do some work, so they appoint somebody unofficially to do all these works. What kind of work has been done by these informers or the handlers. So there may be a lot of things done by this Mr. Gosavi by the Narcotics Bureau. So Narcotic Bureau has to be answered. Therefore, they are very silent on this. All these things which are revealed in the yesterday by the in the press conference of Nawab Malik. So there are a lot of fishy things is there.
So you're basically saying
yeah.
You're basically saying the Mr. Gosavi was the sort of dirty tricks guy, go-to guy who could do things off the book. Now the point is that when you do things off the book, you don't take selfies. You don't take selfies when you do things off the book. No one is naive enough here to say that things don't happen off the book. But you don't brandish guns and take photographs. You don't take selfies. I mean, this is just this is the next movie waiting to be made. Raja, I have to ask you a more serious question about the undercurrents of fear. You also made the point about the sense of being targeted, Shahrukh being targeted. I ask you again, why would he be targeted? That silence that you said has been imposed on him is not sudden, and it's I mean, Shahrukh hasn't taken a position on any issue, political or social, for years.
I think, I mean, it's very unfortunate to look at things and reduce them to such basic binaries. But I feel there is a certain bigotry that has come into the way the film industry functions. The industry is a place where, successful Muslim actors have done really, really well, perhaps disproportionately well in terms of the country, and, for decades now. And I think there is the narrative is being is trying to paint them a certain way. I think it's easy to do that. I think we are seeing how quickly and toxically the narrative is being changed. I think one of the most awful things I saw in these last few days after Aryan's arrest was, still a picture of, the actor R. Madhavan and his son both wearing janeos at some puja, saying that, see, all star kids are not like Shahrukh's child. Now, that picture doesn't prove anything. I have nothing against Mr. Madhavan and his son, but I mean, why is there one being compared to the other, and why is this being shown as the good way, the only way forward? We are seeing, I think recently a lot of film and television where Muslim characters or Muslim emperors, for example, with Empire, which tried to say that Babur was tried to go on about the greatness of Babur, was also vilified because they're like, why are you showing Babur in any sort of flattering light? So I think the narrative is there is a bigotry which has not existed before, I don't think, and I think that is coming into the film industry in terms of the way larger decisions are being made.
Let me get Sandip to respond to that, and then I need to take last comments, and I'll come to Sachin Sawant right after. Sandip, the sense that there is an anti-Muslimism at heart, not just a center-state tussle, how do you respond to that?
See, that is, you have to distinguish between what the authorities are doing. Are we saying the authorities are doing that?
Raja, 1 minute. Let me ask Raja that. Raja, is it the trolls who are anti-Muslim? Is it the NCB that's anti-Muslim? Is it the film industry itself that's anti-Muslim? Which one are you saying?
I think that's a hard line to draw. I feel the trolls, of course, there are. I mean, let's not dignify what the trolls think, because we know that a lot of it is not organic. But in terms of the industry, I think the industry always kind of tries to toe the more cautious line. And since they are seeing a certain line is more accepted by organizations in power, that I think they are trying to toe that line. I think we're beginning to see it. I don't think anyone is going to stop signing movies with Shahrukh Khan or Salman Khan or Amir Khan yet, but I think there is a certain amount of there is a certain sentiment that's simmering.
Okay, Sandip.
So that's the key point. Nobody can deny, we have known forever that Bombay, there is a lot of underworld activity, underworld money, and there is reason for people to believe also in films there is dirty money or funny money which operates. Now, if that people are investigating, I would expect them to investigate that independently and come to some conclusion. But you're just going around, and if you catch these small fishes, then you're not doing any service to your own credibility. But the other part, I would like to believe so far, it is the trolls and people who are, more holier than thou sort of a thing, who are jumping into that.
Sandeep, what happens is that if there's enough noise online, because some people are scaredy pools. What if you reach a point where Shahrukh and Amir and Salman are not cast in as many movies as they used to be casted?
I don't think that's happening, Barkha. And even if it happens for a short while, I think, ultimately economics takes over. I have not seen in any situation where these kind of, any sort of, this kind of anti-propaganda has really driven somebody out of the business. I think it's a far greater reality where inside cartels or inside cliques within the industry, that's what puts people out of jobs rather than this kind of trolling.
Okay. And sorry, I have just literally a minute left. So Sachin ji, to you, how does, you said in the beginning, let the law take its own course. Having put these videos out, what do you now expect the NCB to do?
We expect that, and today also I have demanded that the NCB DG must take action against all those officers. I still believe that the rules and regulations have not been adhered to in this particular case. And there seems to be a political agenda into this, and that is why we have demanded action from MBA government to investigate into this particular matter, because the picture seems to be not so clear, and we need to unearth the entire conspiracy behind this. That is what our contention is. As far as if you want me to talk on the subject that was going on between Raja and our other panelists,
Sandip,
you need to understand. Sandip. See, you need to understand, since last 7 years, we have been seeing that there is a concerted effort from the government to silence the voice, which actually is the essential part of democracy. And that is why I say, I remember the shloka of Gita, Yadyada acharati sreshta tattateve itri jana saha yat pramanam kurte lokatat anuvartate. इसका मतलब ये है कि जो समाज का श्रेष्ठ व्यक्ति है, जो वो सोचता है, जिस तरह से वो बर्ताव करता है, उसी तरह से समाज के अन्य व्यक्ति को बर्ताव करते हैं. तो यही हुआ है कि जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी, the moment they become ruler, they wanted to drive their agenda, and for which the voices of opposition needed to be silenced, and that is why we are seeing.
But how is Shahrukh a voice of the opposition?
No, not about opposition. Whoever opposes them, they don't like it. But apart from that, you need to understand.
But I'm continuously saying that Shahrukh Khan is silent and has been for years.
See, Barkha, in 2015, there were many people who had come up with their own voice against the government, if you remember. And at that time, Anupam Kher drove another agenda, to neutralize that particular thing. Now the voice is suddenly down. And what happens when a film industry person speaks out for something which is like, what we have seen earlier also, even they are targeted at this moment. We are unnecessarily blaming the trolls. We are unnecessarily blaming the trolls. It is the government that wants that particular to happen. You need to understand.
I think that's a reasonable point to actually take to Raja very quickly. Then Sandip, you all get 30 seconds each. I'll give Mr. Kumar the last word. Raja, very quickly, the film industry should have learned from the Sushant Singh case that being silent doesn't necessarily earn you protection from controversy.
See, Barkha, I think one thing that we are doing, and we are a little easy, as people who cover the media, cover the film industry. The problem is we try to paint them all with the same brush. There is no one concerted film industry. There might be some producers' bodies, some directors' bodies, but there isn't really, it doesn't take decisions as a whole. It's a very fractured body, all looking out for their own interests, all with their own, eye on different goalposts. So I think like last year, when there was particularly defamatory coverage, a group of producers had gotten together and sent a notice to some TV channels, and they did this is talking about Bollywood in a certain, all that nashedi and all that conversation had been toned down a little bit. So I think it's a little important to see that Bollywood doesn't really unite in that sense. But at this point, I think what we need to see is that like Deepika Padukone, for example, she went to JNU. 6 months later, she was called in by the NCB. Her phone was, her WhatsApp chats were splashed across news channels, and now she doesn't say anything about anything. So I think that's the kind of thing we are
Yeah,
encouraging at this point.
that's
Yeah.
okay. Sandeep, you want to take that very quickly?
No, I think we've spoken about it, Barkha. I think these issues have to be separated, and I think everybody should stop politicizing it, at least at the government level, state government, and if they, start throwing stones at each other, uh, the actual justice suffers. I think there has to be a convergence over there, and let the trolls and other people do whatever. We'll also continue having our shows, so that's part
Yeah.
of the.
So Dheerji, do you think this case will go further and reveal any more names, or you think it will end here only?
I don't know. I don't from
I
past.
will
See,
ask it Sudhir.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. There is similarity in the little bit
names.
names.
Yes, yeah.
So yesterday only the normally who took the press conference and revealed political leader involvement and the private person involvement. In the end of the press conference, he also said that they have got some bigger thing also. If the narcotic control bureau doesn't work or act or whatever the expose they have done it, so they will reveal bigger things. I think this is some kind of theatrical things or threatening things to each other. If you do that with us, then we will do that. Yesterday, normally exposed the narcotic bureau. BJP jumped in this entire controversy. Now today, there are IT raids, against the Ajit Pawar, Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra. 6 is sugar mill related to him, and his sisters has raided by the
Yeah.
income tax department. Now again the controversy has been started in Maharashtra. So there is no what we shortage of
The-
the things in
okay.
Maharashtra. We will continue to
Well, there's
keep
no shortage. There's
doing
no
so
shortage of them in
some
our
more.
in our country. There's not never a dull corner. I just want to end by giving the last word to Mr. Bibi Kumar, the former DG of the NCP. Sir, the NCB is now officially said in court, and I'm just reading this out. The ASG arguing on behalf of the Narcotics Bureau says, without taking much time of the court, I want to say I want custody of Aryan Khan. I do not want to segregate one person from the other. We want to investigate them together. So the NCB quite sticking to its guns that it has a case. My question to you is, if you were the Director General of the Narcotics Bureau today, in the light of everything that has come out, what would you do at this point if you were still serving?
I think they were apprehended on 2nd of this month, 2nd October, if I'm not mistaken, that
Yes.
too in the night. So seeking extended custody up to 11th is not asking too much. That is because if you have to take into account the follow-up action that has been done, they have apprehended 4 directors of Namaskre Experience Private Limited. They have been arrested and produced before the magistrate. Their custody have been extended up to 11th. Then they also apprehended some of the suppliers, and particularly one sheikh. His full name is Abdul Qadir Sheikh, who seems to be a major supplier to the whole thing. And Sher Nair is another supplier who has come into the light. And there are so many other names which have come out. So this case will lead to much higher revelations, and probably many persons will be apprehended. Now we must
Okay.
realize that Delhi has become a major cocaine capital, and particularly West Delhi is known as the drug zone. So we have to be careful, because India is slowly emerging as one of the largest consumer of drugs. 1/6 of the world production of drugs is being consumed in India, and this is a very dangerous thing for our youngsters. So taking further action and serious action, I won't say that the youngsters should be detained, but there will be a starting point. We had cases in
I
Calcutta
I
where at
wish
a
those were the
yeah,
conversations we were having, sir. The problem is that when you see these publicity hounds who put themselves in front of cameras and virtually act like they are the policemen in charge, you actually undermine a serious conversation about drug use,
yeah.
and that is the precise problem. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We will follow this case. I'm sure all of you will be back. This is in some ways an inflection point for the film industry, which could get as polarized as the media news industry. And I think that's where possibly we are headed. But for now, thank you to our panel and to our audience. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.